So it is time to take a look at another A220 from Herpa Wings in scale 500. Not so long ago we did take a look at a Croatia Airlines. Personally, I do like that livery, but it is of course not the most elaborate one. That is however something this A220 can deliver on, and we can take a look at it thanks to our great partner here on the channel, Jumbolino Model, who with their reasonable prices and great service are a reliable partner of collectors. So do check them out, there's a link to them in the video description below. With that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today, as mentioned, will take a closer look at an Airbus A220-300 of Air Baltic. At the front of the box we have a cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside. Underneath that we have the Air Baltic branding, and we can see Herpa is actually trying to give us some form of a box design, and I guess we give them an A for effort. But it is just really hard to actually pull off a nice box design when this is the basis of your layout. With another window on the back side of the box, you just can't do much with this kind of box. So Herpa, do yourself a favor and change it. The only thing we should mention here, however, is the fact that this is a limited edition. And here she is, the Airbus A220-300 in a special livery of Air Baltic, celebrating the 50th Airbus A220 in the fleet of Air Baltic by representing the Baltic nature and heritage and having all three Baltic states in symbols represented in this livery. But how has Herpa done this time around with this A220 and also with this special livery? That is, of course, our task for today's review and what we want to find out. And we start out by taking a look at the tail section, where we, on the vertical stabilizer incorporated into the standard Baltic color scheme, find the Latvian flag, which continues onwards to the fuselage and further to the front of the aircraft, where we stay with the tail of the aircraft just for a little while longer, because here we also find the flag of the European Union, the Latvian flag, the full registration code of the aircraft, and towards the very tail of the aircraft also a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. Now, if we follow the Latvian flag, which we could perhaps also describe as a cheat line in this case, all the way to the front of the aircraft, we find a few of these symbols representing the three Baltic states. We do find, for example, the ladybird symbolizing Latvia. We do find the swallow representing Estonia, and we find the stork representing Lithuania. Usually we would also find the Air Baltic branding here, but with this livery that has kind of fallen away, except for some writing next to the cabin door, and that does actually say Air Baltic, and underneath that, celebrating the 50th Airbus A220-300 inspired by Baltic nature. While completely in line with Herpa's standards at the moment, but still quite unfortunate, is the fact that we don't have any hatches or sensors, and especially the sensors around the cockpit section would really have elevated this aircraft model. So the only details we get at the cockpit section are the cockpit windows with the metallic edges, the window wipers, and the emergency hatch for the cockpit just above the cockpit windows. Also in line with Herpa's standards are the engines. The nacelles have been given the typical Air Baltic green, or lime green I guess we can call it. We have the silver leading edge, we have the Air Baltic branding and the safety markings printed on. The physical detailing of the engines I think is quite nice, especially considering the size of the A220 in scale 500, and very nice you can see the detailing here is the front with the engine fan blades. On the fuselage, just above the wings, we have the emergency exit printed on, and that leads us straight to the wings, which we should also take a closer look at, starting over the top side, where we have the different flaps, slats and spoilers carved out quite nicely. We also have the markings for the emergency exit printed on. The underside of the wings offers us more nice physical detailing, and we also have the full registration code of the aircraft. The A220 then of course also has these lovely winglets, again with the Air Baltic color scheme and branding printed on. And we of course also find the landing gear here, which is the standard landing gear for all Airbus A220s from Herpa Wings in scale 500. Main landing gear looking fine, front landing gear as always massively oversized. We do have the colored in hatches here, but still a few markings would have been lovely. On the belly of the aircraft we then again find the Air Baltic branding, and behind all that we then have a hole in the fuselage for a stand that is not included with this aircraft model. It doesn't destroy any of the printed details, so I can live with it, but still a bit silly. More interesting here is the fact that we have a bit of physical detailing around the ram air intakes. And then last but not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on, here at the back of the aircraft and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A220-300 in the special Air Baltic livery celebrating the airline's 50th A220 from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 500. And what can we say about this aircraft model? To be honest, I don't have too many grievances with the aircraft model overall. I mean, we don't have any set domes on it, which in Herpa's case is good because then we don't have any inconsistency here. We do, however, still have some inconsistency with the shape of the nose. The cockpit section of the A220 looks fairly different from model to model, so placing many A220s next to each other is not really a pleasure with Herpa Wings. Then, of course, we still have the massively oversized front landing gear, again something that Herpa just doesn't care to fix. But apart from that, I think we actually have a pretty solid aircraft model. We have a quite complicated livery, so we have many color transitions. Herpa solved it with the printing technique where you actually add just a lot of really tiny colorful dots next to each other, which means when you go really close to the aircraft model, you can see many of these dots, which means it gets a little bit grainy. But this is really just an issue when you get close to it, just a little bit of a distance, and you do not see the graininess of these colored dots. And for a scale 500 aircraft model with such a complicated livery, I think Herpa has done a really solid job. So overall, a good job with the print quality of the aircraft model. I mean, we also don't really have any smudges, and I don't really see any print lines, which is also a relief. The physical detailing, apart from the front landing gear, is also solid on the A220 from Herpa Wings. But what could drive away customers is the official retail price. So the recommended retail price of Herpa Wings set at €39. And yes, that is, despite a complicated livery, a really hefty price tag for a tiny little A220 in scale 500. Of course, we know that Herpa can go even more crazy with the upcoming Qantas Link A220 in a special livery, where the price tag is even higher, but still €39 for this A220 is in my books at least €5 to €10 too much. But what are your thoughts on this? Are you willing to pay an additional charge for a more elaborate livery? Let me know what you think about the price of this A220 and the topic in general in the comment section down below. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then feel free to leave a like. If you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? And with that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.